council chamber smelled of old wood and alpha dominance. 12 territorial leaders sat in judgment, their eyes fixed on the young woman standing between two towering figures who flanked her like twin pillars of lethal grace. Catherine Whitmore's hand rested on the gentle swell of her belly, 4 months along. Twins. She could feel their tiny heartbeats through the bond she shared with the men beside her. The man across the room sneered, his handsome face twisted with something that might have been rage or desperation or greed. Derek Blackwood, alpha heir of the Colorado Pack, the first man who'd ever broken her heart. She was my fated mate first. His voice carried the weight of command, but underneath it, Catherine heard something she'd never noticed before. Entitlement. The assumption that what he wanted, he deserved. I have prior claim. Adrian Thorne spoke without raising his voice, yet every wolf in the chamber felt the power behind his words. Prior claim you rejected. Publicly. Witnesses present can confirm. Temporary insanity. Derek's attorney stepped forward, a weasel of a beta clutching papers like shields. The rejection can be reversed if both parties consent. My client wishes to restore the original bond. Catherine felt Damien's hands settle on her lower back. Warm, steady. A silent reminder that she wasn't alone. Not anymore. Never again. The head councilman, a silver-haired alpha whose scars spoke of battles won and wars survived, turned his ancient gaze to her. The Omega will speak. Tell us, Catherine Whitmore, do you consent to bond restoration with Derek Blackwood? This was the moment, the one that would define everything that came after. Catherine stepped forward away from the protective circle of her mate's presence. She stood alone in the center of the chamber, pale hair catching the afternoon light, streaming through high windows, and every wolf present saw the marks on her throat. 2 sets of claiming bites. Fresh, permanent, glowing faint silver. Her voice when she spoke did not shake. 6 months ago, Derek Blackwood stood before his entire pack and called me cursed. 6 months earlier. The mountains of Colorado wore autumn like a crown of fire. Aspens burned gold against evergreen, and the air tasted of coming snow and pine smoke from the lodge fires. Catherine Whitmore was 22 years old, and she had lived her entire life knowing she was different in all the wrong ways. The water bucket was heavy. Her arms trembled as she carried it up the servant stairs, taking care not to spill a drop on the polished wood floors. Blackwood Lodge demanded perfection. The pack that called it home accepted nothing less, especially not from her. She caught her reflection in a hallway mirror and looked away quickly. White hair, pale skin, eyes the color of winter ice. Albinism, the pack doctor had said when she was born. A genetic mutation. Rare. Striking, some might call it. The Blackwood pack called it cursed. Her mother had died bringing her into the world. Her father, a mid-ranking beta, had lasted 3 more years before grief took him too. Catherine had been raised by the pack, clothed and fed and sheltered, but never truly wanted. Never truly home. The Omegas whispered that her coloring was a mark of the moon goddess's displeasure. The Betas avoided her eyes. The Alphas looked through her as if she didn't exist. All except one. Derek Blackwood was 28, the Alpha heir, and he had the kind of face that belonged in magazines or movies. Strong jaw, dark hair, eyes like warm honey. He'd been away at university when Catherine came of age, studying business and pack law, preparing to take over leadership when his father retired. He'd come home 6 months ago. And 3 weeks ago, on Catherine's 22nd birthday, something had shifted in the air between them. A pull, a recognition, the snap of a bond forming invisible but undeniable. Fated mates. Catherine had felt it like lightning through her blood, had seen Derek's eyes widen with the same realization, had watched him turn and walk away without a word, leaving her standing alone in the kitchen with her heart hammering against her ribs. He'd avoided her for 2 weeks after that. Then quietly he'd sought her out. Found her in the laundry room, folding sheets that smelled of lavender and sunshine. We need to talk, he'd said, but not here. Too many ears. They'd met in the forest half a mile from the lodge, where the aspens whispered secrets and no pack member would accidentally overhear. You felt it, Derek had said. Not a question. Yes, Catherine's voice had been barely a whisper. The mate bond. He'd run a hand through his hair, looking almost nervous, almost human. I didn't expect this. Didn't plan for it. Neither did I. He'd looked at her, then really looked, and for a moment she'd seen something in his eyes that might have been wonder. You're beautiful when the light hits you right, like moonlight made flesh. Her breath had caught. But this complicates things. Derek had stepped closer, and Catherine had felt the alpha power radiating from him like heat. My father expects me to choose a mate from one of the allied packs. Political alliance, strengthen our borders. I understand. And she had. Understood that she was nobody. Nothing. A servant Omega with cursed coloring and no family to speak for her. No, Derek's hand had cupped her face thumb, brushing her too pale cheek. You don't understand. I'm going to fight for us. The bond chose you. That means something. The goddess doesn't make mistakes. Hope had bloomed in her chest like spring after endless winter. The pack gathering is in 3 days, Derek had continued. I'll announce it then. Publicly. My father can't argue with a fated mate bond. No one can. Catherine had wanted to believe him, had let herself imagine just for a moment what it might be like to stand beside him as an equal, to be chosen, to be wanted. Trust me, Derek had said, and kissed her forehead with a gentleness that made her eyes sting with tears. 3 days, then everything changes. She'd trusted him. Fool. The great hall of Blackwood Lodge was built for spectacle. Vaulted ceilings soared 20 feet high. A massive fireplace dominated the north wall, flames dancing across logs thick as a man's torso. Mounted heads of elk and bear watched the proceedings with glass-eyed trophies from hunts past. The entire pack gathered for monthly meetings, 150 wolves, give or take, ranging from pups to elders. They filled the space with noise and warmth and the constant underlying scent of pack. Family if you belonged, other if you didn't. Catherine served drinks from a silver tray, moving along the edges of the crowd, invisible in her servant blacks. She'd braided her white hair tight to her skull, trying to make herself smaller, less noticeable. Derek stood near the fireplace with his father, Alpha Marcus Blackwood. He wore a suit, charcoal gray, no tie. Casual authority. He looked confident, powerful. He hadn't met her eyes once since the gathering began. Catherine told herself it was strategy. He couldn't show favor before the announcement, couldn't give away the surprise. She told herself a lot of things. Alpha Marcus called the meeting to order with a simple gesture. Silence fell like a curtain. We have important news tonight, Marcus's voice carried easily across the hall. My son has an announcement regarding his future. Derek. This was it. Catherine's hands trembled slightly. She set the tray down on a side table, not trusting herself to hold it steady. Derek stepped forward into the center of the hall. Light from the fire painted him in shades of gold and shadow. He looked at Catherine. Their eyes met across the crowded room. She saw his face change, saw something harden in his expression, some decision made, or perhaps made long ago and only now executed. Her heart knew before her mind did. I'm pleased to announce my engagement, Derek said, and his voice held nothing but pride and satisfaction. To Vanessa Crawford of the Silver Creek Pack. A beautiful beta woman stepped forward from the crowd, dark hair and perfect smile, and slipped her hand into Derek's waiting palm. The hall erupted in congratulations. Catherine couldn't breathe. This wasn't real. Couldn't be real. The bond hummed between them, undeniable, and Derek was announcing his engagement to someone else, like she didn't exist. She must have made a sound, some small noise of distress barely audible over the celebration. But Derek heard it. Their eyes met again across the room, and this time she saw the truth. He knew exactly what he was doing. The kitchen was blessedly empty. Everyone was in the great hall celebrating. Catherine braced her hands on the counter, breathing hard, trying to hold herself together through sheer force of will. We need to talk. Derek's voice. She spun around. He stood in the doorway, hands in his pockets, expression unreadable. Why? The word came out broken. You felt the bond. I know you did. I felt it. Derek stepped into the kitchen. Inconvenient timing. Inconvenient? She almost laughed. We're fated mates. Fated to what? A life of ridicule. Derek's mask cracked, showing the calculation underneath. You think I'm going to tie myself to you, introduce you as my mate, the cursed Omega, with no family, no status, no value to the pack? Each word landed like a physical blow. The alliance with Silver Creek gives us access to their territory for hunting rights. Vanessa's father controls 3 smaller packs. That's power, Catherine. Real power. What do you bring to the table? The bond. The bond is biology, chemistry. It doesn't mean I have to follow it. Derek's honey eyes were cold now. I'm going to be alpha of this pack. I need a mate who strengthens my position, not weakens it. Then reject me. Catherine heard her voice from very far away. If you're so sure, reject the bond. Derek hesitated. Just for a moment, something flickered across his face. Doubt, maybe? Or regret. Then it was gone. Fine. He straightened to his full height, and the alpha power rolled off him in waves. Derek's voice took on the formal cadence of ritual. I, Derek Blackwood, hereby reject. Wait. The voice came from the kitchen doorway. Marcus Blackwood stood there, face like granite. Not here, the older Alpha said quietly. If you're doing this, you're doing it properly. Publicly. No rumors. No questions. Derek's jaw tightened. Father, you made your choice when you accepted Vanessa's suit. Now finish it cleanly. Marcus's eyes held something that might have been disappointment. The pack needs to witness. Come. Catherine wanted to run, but her legs moved forward, following Derek and his father back toward the Great Hall because some part of her needed to see this through. The celebration quieted when Marcus re-entered with his son and the pale Omega trailing behind. A matter of pack business, Marcus announced. Derek has something to address. Catherine felt 150 pairs of eyes turn toward her. She lifted her chin and refused to cower. Derek faced her in the center of the hall. His voice carried to every corner of the room. I, Derek Blackwood, Alpha Heir of the Blackwood Pack, hereby reject you, Catherine Whitmore, as my fated mate. The bond snapped. Something that had been pulling taut between them suddenly severed like a rope cut clean through. The pain was immediate and total. Catherine's knees buckled. She caught herself on a chair, back white-knuckled, as agony tore through her chest. It felt like her ribs were breaking from the inside, like her heart was being ripped out through her throat. But Derek wasn't finished. You are weak, he continued, and his voice held nothing but contempt now. Defective, unworthy of standing beside an alpha of this pack. Your bloodline is cursed, Catherine. Your inability to even shift properly marks you as inferior. I will not contaminate the Blackwood lineage with your tainted blood. This rejection is final and binding. You have no claim on me, no place in my future. Somewhere in the crowd, someone laughed. The sound spread. Not everyone, not even most, but enough that Catherine heard it echo through the hall. She wanted to die. Instead, she did something that surprised even herself. Catherine Whitmore straightened to her full height. She looked Derek Blackwood directly in the eyes, and she spoke clear and steady despite the tears streaming down her too pale face. I accept your rejection, Derek Blackwood, and I promise you this, you will regret it. Then she turned and walked out of Blackwood Lodge with her head high and her heart in pieces. Behind her, the laughter followed. The elders found her in her quarters an hour later. Catherine had packed a single bag. She owned almost nothing. A few changes of clothes, a photograph of her parents faded and creased, a silver necklace her mother had worn. Elder Grace knocked once, then entered without waiting for permission. 2 other council members flanked her. Their faces held no sympathy. The Alpha has declared you exile, Grace said, not unkindly, but not gently either. You have 24 hours to leave pack territory. If you're found here after dawn tomorrow, you will be removed by force. Catherine had expected this. Rejected mates couldn't stay in their former pack. I understand, she said. Do you have somewhere to go? Family in another pack? No. Grace's expression softened slightly. I'm sorry, child, but this is the way of it. The Alpha's word is law. They left her alone after that. Catherine waited until full dark, then shouldered her bag and slipped out the back way. The forest welcomed her with shadows and silence. She walked until her legs gave out, collapsed against a pine tree, and finally let herself shatter. Great racking sobs tore from her throat. The rejection pain pulsed with every heartbeat. Catherine cried until she had no tears left. That's when she heard the snarling. 3 rogue wolves emerged from the undergrowth. Mangy, scarred, they smelled her distress. Saw an Omega alone in the dark, defenseless. Easy prey. The largest rogue shifted to human form. Well, what do we have here? Catherine scrambled to her feet. Her wolf surged inside her, finally responding to the threat. Stay back, she warned, shocked to hear a growl in her voice. The rogue laughed. You can barely stand, little Omega. Rejection pain's a bitch, isn't it? The other 2 circled her, flanking, hunting tactics. Then she caught a scent on the wind that didn't belong to the rogues. Small, young, terrified. Please, a child's voice whimpered from somewhere in the darkness. Please don't hurt me. A pup maybe 6 or 7 years old huddled in the hollow of a fallen tree. Something in Catherine snapped. Not her bond this time, something deeper, more primal. The protective fury of an Omega facing a threat to a child. Her wolf exploded to the surface. The shift was messy, painful. Bones breaking and reforming, muscles tearing, and healing skin stretching to accommodate fur. For her, it was agony. But when the shift completed, she stood on 4 legs for the first time in her life. Silver fur, larger than an Omega should be. Eyes glowing ice blue in the darkness. The rogues hesitated. Catherine didn't. She hit the first rogue with her full weight, knocking him off his feet. Her teeth found his throat. Not killing, but damage pain. Terror, she could manage that. The rogue screamed, the other two attacked together. Catherine felt claws rake her side, felt teeth close on her back leg, but the pain was distant secondary to the burning need to protect the child. She fought like something possessed. When it was over, all three rogues were bleeding and limping and running. Catherine stood over the child, hackles raised, daring them to come back. They didn't. Only when the forest went quiet did Catherine let herself shift back. The change hurt just as badly in reverse. She collapsed naked in the leaf litter, covered in blood and dirt and tears, every muscle screaming. But alive. The child crawled out from the tree, big eyes full of wonder. "You saved me." "Are you hurt?" Catherine's voice was raw. "Just scared. I got lost. Mama's going to be so worried." "Where's your pack?" "We're traveling. Merchant caravan. Camped by the road 2 miles east." Catherine forced herself to stand on shaking legs, found her scattered clothes and dressed with clumsy fingers, took the child's small hand in hers and started walking. 2 miles felt like 20. The caravan was exactly where the child said. 3 wagons circled around a campfire. A woman saw them approaching and screamed the child's name, running forward to scoop up her son and clutch him tight. "Thank you," she sobbed into Catherine's shoulder. "Thank you, thank you." "He's safe now," Catherine managed. The woman pulled back, really looking at her for the first time, took in the blood and bruises, the devastation written in every line of Catherine's body. "You're injured. Let me help you." "I'm fine, just need to keep moving." "Where are you headed?" "Away." Catherine's laugh was bitter. "Just away." The woman studied her with kind, knowing eyes. "We're headed to Portland, Maine, neutral territory on the coast. Good place to start over if you need a fresh start." Portland. Catherine had never been. Independent city, no major pack control. Shifters and humans living together in relative peace. A place where nobody knew her story. "Can I travel with you?" The words came out small, pleading. "Of course, honey. Get in the wagon, rest. We leave at first light." Catherine climbed into the back of the wagon, curled up on blankets that smelled like cinnamon and strangers. Let exhaustion pull her under. Her last thought before sleep took her was that she'd kept her promise to Derek. She would survive this, would become something he never expected. Someday she would stand before Derek Blackwood and show him exactly what he'd lost. The thought burned in her chest like a coal, warming her through the cold darkness of rejection and exile. Catherine Whitmore closed her eyes and promised herself survival. It was the only promise she had left. Portland, Maine wore winter like a lover's embrace. Snow dusted the cobblestone streets of the old port, and the Atlantic Ocean breathed cold salt air through the city's bones. Catherine had been here 3 weeks, and she still wasn't used to the absence of mountains on the horizon. The Rusty Anchor was the kind of tavern that catered to both worlds. Humans sat at the bar nursing beers and complaining about the Patriots' season. Shifters occupied the back booths conducting business in low voices. The owner, a grizzled bear shifter named Marcus, who'd lost his pack decades ago, didn't care what you were as long as you paid your tab and didn't start fights. Catherine wiped down tables during the afternoon lull. The lunch rush had cleared out. Dinner crowd wouldn't arrive for another 2 hours. Nobody here knew her story. Nobody looked at her white hair and whispered cursed. She was just Kat, the new waitress, who worked hard and kept her head down. The rejection pain had faded to a dull ache. 3 weeks was long enough for the worst of it to pass, though she still felt the ghost of the severed bond sometimes. A phantom limb that would never grow back. The bell above the door chimed. Catherine glanced up reflexively, ready to greet customers with the practiced smile that earned better tips. The words died in her throat. 2 men stood in the doorway, and the winter sunlight behind them created halos of gold and silver. They were tall, 6'3", maybe 6'4", built like they'd been carved from marble by an artist who understood exactly what power looked like in physical form. Identical. Twins. Dark hair, though one wore his slightly longer. Strong features that might have been too harsh if not for the intelligence in their eyes. They wore matching black coats over expensive suits, and they moved with the kind of synchronization that spoke of decades moving as one unit. Alphas. Catherine could feel it from across the room, the dominance rolling off them in waves, the barely contained power that made the air itself feel thicker. Every shifter in the tavern went quiet. The twins scanned the room with eyes that saw everything. Assessed, cataloged, dismissed. Then their gazes landed on Catherine. The world tilted. She felt it snap into place like a bone setting after a break. Felt something fundamental shift in her chest, around her heart, through her very soul. Mate bond. No, not again. Not possible. She'd already had a fated mate. Derek. The bond had been rejected and broken and she was free of it. Except the pull was undeniable. Twice as strong as what she'd felt with Derek. Twice as insistent. Like her wolf recognized something in these men that went beyond biology into destiny. Both of them. Both twins. Their eyes widened in perfect synchronization. She watched realization hit them the same way it had hit her. Watched their nostrils flare as they scented her across the room. Watched their bodies go utterly still in the way of predators who'd just spotted prey. Catherine's heart hammered against her ribs. The tray in her hands clattered to the floor. She ran. Burst through the kitchen door, past a startled cook, out the back exit into the alley. Her breath came in gasping clouds in the freezing air. She pressed her back against the brick wall and tried to make sense of what had just happened. Two mates. Twins. Impossible. Footsteps approached from the mouth of the alley. Slow. Careful. Non-threatening. Please don't run again. The voice was deep controlled with an underlying rumble that spoke of wolf. We're not going to hurt you. Catherine looked up. The twins stood at the alley entrance, backlit by weak winter sun. They'd removed their coats. The one who'd spoken stood slightly forward. His eyes were a shade darker than his brother's. Whiskey gold to pale amber. Stay back, she managed. We will. The second twin spoke, and his voice had a rougher quality, more gravel. We'll stay right here. We just need to talk. There's nothing to talk about. I think there is. The first twin's lips curved slightly. My name is Adrian Thorne. This is my brother Damien. We're the territorial alphas for this region. Catherine had heard of them. Everyone in Portland's shifter community knew the Thorne twins. I felt it, Adrian continued quietly. I know you did too. The bond. That's not possible. I already had a mate bond. It was rejected. You only get one. Usually, Damien said, but there are exceptions. What kind of exceptions? The twins exchanged a glance. Some wordless communication passed between them. Have you ever heard of true omegas? Adrian asked. Catherine shook her head. They're extremely rare. One in maybe 100,000. True omegas have the ability to bond with multiple alphas, usually twins or triplets. It's an evolutionary adaptation. I'm not special, Catherine said flatly. I'm just an omega with a broken bond. The fact that you can feel this pull after being rejected suggests otherwise. Adrian took half a step forward. Catherine pressed harder against the wall. He stopped immediately. Rejected bonds normally make it impossible to form new ones. The damage is too severe, but true omegas are different. They heal. They can bond again. With both of you. Yes. Catherine's mind spun. This was insane. She was nobody, nothing. The cursed omega who couldn't even shift properly until rogues threatened a child. I don't understand why you care, she said. You're pack alphas. You could have anyone. Why chase down a waitress in an alley? Damien's smile was gentle. Because the bond chose you. That means something. Means everything. The bond chose me before. Didn't work out so well. Then he was a fool. Adrian's voice held steel. And you deserve better than a fool. Catherine wanted to believe them, but Derek had taught her to guard her heart. I need to think, she said. Of course, Adrian reached into his jacket, moving slowly. He pulled out a business card, set it on the ground halfway between them. When you're ready to talk, call. We'll meet wherever you're comfortable. And if I decide I don't want this, the pain that flashed across both their faces was so raw, so genuine, that Catherine felt it echo in her own chest. Then we'll respect that, Damien said quietly. We won't force anything. You'd be free to reject the bond if that's what you choose. Even though it would hurt you. Oh, even though it would destroy us, Adrian corrected. But it would be your choice. Always your choice. They turned to leave. Catherine heard herself speak. Wait. Both twins froze, turned back. This true omega thing. Are you certain about me? Adrian's smile transformed his face from handsome to devastating. We've been alive a long time, Catherine. 300 years. We've met maybe a dozen true omegas in all that time. We know what we're looking at. And 300 years, she repeated faintly. Give or take. Damien's expression softened. We're not asking you to decide right now. We're just asking you to consider the possibility. Talk to us. Let us explain what this could mean. Catherine picked up the business card. Heavy stock, embossed lettering, Adrian Thorne Alpha Thorne Pack. I'll think about it, she said. That's all we ask. Adrian inclined his head. Thank you for not running farther. They left her alone in the alley. Catherine slid down the wall until she sat on the cold concrete. stared at the business card in her trembling hands. Two Alpha Kings wanted her, not for politics, not for alliance, because the bond said she was theirs. It should have felt like another trap. Instead, it felt like the first deep breath after drowning. She made them wait 3 days. Catherine needed time to research, to ask careful questions of the older shifters who frequented the Rusty Anchor, to understand what True Omega actually meant. The stories were consistent. True Omegas bonded with multiple Alphas. The bonds were stronger than standard matings. Unbreakable, some said. True Omegas were prized, protected, treasured. They were also targets. The question was whether that terrified her more than the alternative. Another lifetime of being alone. On the third evening, she called the number. Adrian answered on the first ring. Catherine, how did you know it was me? I've been hoping it would be. She heard the smile in his voice. Are you ready to talk? Yes, but I have conditions. Name them. Public place, tomorrow afternoon, somewhere neutral. There's a coffee shop on Exchange Street, Arabica, 2 o'clock. I'll be there. Catherine, his voice dropped lower. Thank you for giving us a chance. She ended the call before she could say something foolish. Arabica Coffee House occupied the ground floor of a renovated warehouse. Exposed brick walls, mismatched furniture, the smell of dark roast and cinnamon. Catherine arrived 15 minutes early and claimed a corner table with good sight lines to both exits. Old habits from a lifetime of being prey. Adrian and Damien arrived exactly at 2. They spotted her, immediately navigated the crowd without seeming to acknowledge it existed, and settled into chairs across from her with identical movements. Up close, Catherine could see the differences. Adrian's eyes were darker gold. Damien had a small scar through his left eyebrow. Thank you for meeting us, Adrian said. You said you'd explain. I'm here to listen. Damien leaned back, one arm draped over the chair, casual, unthreatening. What do you know about bonded alpha pairs? Nothing. It's rare, requires a blood ritual performed under specific moon phases, binds 2 alphas together mentally, emotionally, physically. We share thoughts, feel each other's emotions. When one hunts, the other knows. When one hurts, both bleed. Why would anyone do that? Adrian's smile was sharp. Power. 2 alphas fighting as one unit are nearly unstoppable. We've held territory for 3 centuries because we can coordinate perfectly. But there's a point, though, Damien continued. We can't bond with standard Omegas. The connection is too intense, would overwhelm them. True Omegas are different, Adrian picked up the thread. Stronger, capable of handling the mental load of bonding with both of us simultaneously, creating a triad instead of a pair. Catherine's coffee had gone cold. She wrapped her hands around the mug anyway. You're saying I'd be bonded to both of you at the same time? Yes. And you'd share me, like property? No, Adrian's voice went hard. You wouldn't be property. You'd be our equal, our mate. The bond goes 3 ways. We'd feel what you feel. You'd feel us. Complete transparency, complete trust. That sounds terrifying. It is, Damien agreed quietly. Terrifying and beautiful and overwhelming, which is why we're not asking you to decide today, or even this month. We're asking you to let us court you. Get to know us. Let us prove we're worth the risk. Catherine studied them, really looked, saw the hope in their eyes, the careful restraint. Derek had never asked, had assumed, had taken her willingness for granted and then discarded on her. These men were asking permission. I have conditions, she said. We're listening. Catherine pulled out a folded piece of paper. She'd written it last night alone in her tiny studio apartment. I want a written agreement, signed by all 3 of us, witnessed by a neutral party. Adrian's eyebrows rose. Go on. First, no permanent marks without my explicit consent. That includes claiming bites. I'll tell you when I'm ready. Agreed. Second, I maintain financial independence. I keep my job, my apartment. I'm not a kept woman. Agreed, though, we'd like to supplement your income so you can work less if you choose. Not because you're inadequate, because we're disgustingly wealthy and want to spoil you. Catherine's lips twitched despite herself. Third, if at any point I decide this isn't working, I can leave. No retaliation, no using your pack authority to punish me. Damien's expression went serious. That one's harder. Why, well, because if the bond completes breaking, it would damage all 3 of us, potentially fatally. He held up a hand before she could speak. But we agree, if you genuinely want to leave, we'll let you go. We'd rather die than force you to stay. Fourth, Catherine took a breath. You treat me as an equal partner in all decisions that affect the 3 of us. Not a subordinate, not a possession, an equal. That's not a condition, Adrian said softly. That's a fundamental requirement. We're looking for a mate, Catherine, not a pet. And fifth, she met their eyes steadily. You never ever use the bond to manipulate my emotions or decisions. No alpha commands, no compulsion. My mind stays my own. Agreed. Both twins spoke in unison. I want it in writing. We'll have our PAC attorney draft it tonight. You can review it, suggest changes. We'll sign when you're satisfied. Catherine folded the paper. How long do I have to decide about the actual bond? As long as you need, weeks, months, years. Damien's smile was crooked. We've waited 3 centuries, we can wait longer. What if I'm not a true Omega? What if your senses are wrong? Then we'll still want you, Adrian said simply. The bond isn't the only reason we're drawn to you, Catherine. You're brave, strong. You survived rejection and exile and kept going. That's not weakness. That's strength wrapped in determination. Something in her chest cracked, not painfully, more like ice breaking in spring thaw. I need time, she whispered. Take it. Adrian stood. Damien mirrored him. We'll have the contract sent to the Rusty Anchor tomorrow. And in the meantime, we'd like to take you to dinner. Tomorrow night, if you're free. Not your house. Absolutely not. Public restaurant, your choice of venue. Catherine thought about Derek's face when he'd rejected her. The satisfaction, the certainty that she was worthless. And she thought about proving him wrong. There's a bistro on Wharf Street, DeMillo's. I'll meet you there at 7. The smiles that lit up both their faces made her breath catch. We'll be there, Damien promised. The contract arrived the next morning. 5 pages. Dense legal language. Marcus, the bar owner, handed it to her with knowing eyes. Those boys are serious, he said. Catherine read it 3 times. Every condition she'd stated was there, plus additions she hadn't thought of. Financial provision if she chose to leave, protection from rival PACs, health care, legal representation if needed. It was the most respectful thing anyone had ever offered her. She signed it before she could overthink. Dinner was strange and wonderful and terrifying. DeMillo sat on a floating restaurant in the harbor. Catherine arrived 5 minutes early and found them already there waiting outside despite the cold. We couldn't risk being late, Adrian explained, offering his arm. She didn't take it, not yet, but she walked beside them into warmth and candlelight. They'd reserved a private corner booth. Ordered wine she'd never heard of. Asked about her life, her history, what she liked and hated and dreamed about. Catherine found herself talking, really talking, about her parents, her childhood, the loneliness of being different, the pain of rejection. They listened, didn't interrupt, didn't try to fix it, just listened with complete attention. Derek was a fool, Damien said when she finished, but I'm glad he was, otherwise you wouldn't be here. That's a terrible thing to say. But true, Adrian's smile was gentle. Sometimes our worst moments lead to our best outcomes. The evening stretched. 1 hour, 2, 3. Catherine didn't want it to end. Walk me home, she asked. Both twins stood immediately. Portland at night was beautiful in its own way. Snow fell in lazy spirals. Harbor waters lapped against frozen pilings. Catherine's apartment was 12 blocks from the restaurant. She walked slowly. The twins flanked her close enough to provide warmth, but not touching unless she wanted. At her building's entrance, she turned to face them. Thank you, she said, for tonight, for the contract, for respecting my boundaries. Always, Adrian promised. Catherine stood on her toes and kissed his cheek, felt him go perfectly still. Then she turned and did the same to Damien. Same time next week, she asked, or sooner. Damien's voice had gone rough. If you want. Next week, I need to process. They waited until she was inside. She watched from the window as they walked away, moving in perfect synchronization. Catherine touched her lips, felt the ghost of their skin against hers. This was dangerous, this hope, this wanting. But maybe, just maybe, it was worth the risk. The next week passed in a blur of work and texts and anticipation. Adrian sent good morning messages. Damien sent terrible jokes. They asked permission for everything. Catherine said yes to all of it. She was falling. Knew it. Couldn't stop it. The second dinner was at a steakhouse. The third was Thai food. The fourth was cooking at her apartment. All 3 of them crammed into her tiny kitchen, laughing at Adrian's complete inability to follow recipes. I've lived 300 years and never learned to cook, he admitted. They ordered pizza instead. Catherine sat between them on her second-hand couch, sharing slices and wine and stories. Felt the bond humming between all three of them, getting stronger, more insistent. Week 2, she woke up sweating. Her skin felt too tight, too hot. Every nerve ending screamed for touch. Heat. Omega heat. Catherine hadn't had one since before Derek, but now with new mates with a bond trying to form, her body was responding. She texted Adrian with shaking hands. "I need help. Heat. Please." The response was immediate. "Address. We're coming." They arrived within 20 minutes. Both stood in the hallway, their eyes had gone dark. Pupils blown wide with Alpha response to Omega heat, but neither moved. "Can we come in?" Adrian's voice was strained. "Please." They entered, closed the door, stood just inside while Catherine tried to breathe through waves of need. "Do you want us?" Adrian stepped closer. "Need to hear you say it clearly. Need consent, Catherine." "Yes," her voice broke. "Yes, I want you. Both of you. Please." Adrian closed the distance, cupped her face in hands that trembled slightly. "May I kiss you, Martha?" "God, yes." The first touch of his lips was gentle, reverent, but when she made a small sound of need, his control cracked. The kiss deepened. His tongue swept into her mouth. Catherine's knees went weak. Damien was there catching her. His lips found her throat. Not biting, just kissing. "Bedroom," Adrian murmured against her mouth. They walked her there, laid her down on sheets that smelled like her. Stood at the foot of the bed and looked at her with such naked hunger that Catherine felt it like a physical touch. "We've never done this together," Damien said quietly. "With the same woman. With someone we both want." "How do we do this?" Catherine asked. "Carefully." Adrian started unbuttoning his shirt. "One at a time first. Let you adjust. Then together if you want." "I want." "Not yet." Damien removed his jacket. "First time should be just you and Adrian. I'll be here, close, but not participating. Not until you're ready." "Why we?" "Because you deserve to be the center of attention. Deserve to be worshipped." Adrian climbed onto the bed, knelt between her legs, but didn't touch yet. "Can I undress you?" "Yes." His hands were steady despite the hunger in his eyes. He removed her shirt, her bra, paused to simply look at her. "Beautiful," he breathed. Then his mouth found her breast, and Catherine arched off the bed with a cry. Damien settled in a chair near the bed, watching, his scent wrapped around them both. Adrian took his time, kissed every inch of her skin, asked permission before removing her pants, before touching between her legs. "May I?" His fingers hovered. "Please." The first touch made her sob. She was soaking wet, king empty. Adrian's fingers circled slowly, found her most sensitive spot, and stroked with maddening gentleness. "More," Catherine begged. "Not yet. Want you to finish like this first, just from my hand." He worked her expertly, built pleasure in layers, brought her to the edge and backed off, again, until she was thrashing beneath him. "Please, Adrian, please." "Let go for me," he commanded. The release hit like a tidal wave. Catherine screamed, her body clenched around nothing. Wave after wave of pleasure crashed through her. Before she'd finished, Adrian was there, at her entrance, pressing against her. "May I?" Voice wrecked. "Yes, God, yes." He pushed inside in one slow stroke. Catherine's world narrowed to the feeling of being filled, being claimed, being wanted. Adrian held still, letting her adjust, his forehead pressed against hers. "Okay. More than okay. Move. Please move." He did, set a rhythm that was both gentle and devastating. From the chair, Damien growled. Catherine could smell his need, could feel through the partial bond how much he wanted to join them. "Soon," she gasped. "Next time, both of you." Adrian's control shattered. He moved harder, faster. Catherine met him stroke for stroke. "Going to finish," she warned. "Do it. Let go for me." She did, clenched around him, felt him follow her over the edge with a groan that sounded like her name. They collapsed together, hearts pounding in sync. Adrian rolled to the side but kept her close. Damien stood from the chair, stripped, climbed onto the bed. "My turn?" he asked. Catherine looked at him, at the barely controlled hunger in his eyes. "Yes," she said, "your turn." And she opened her arms to her second mate. The bond blazed between all three of them. Burning, beautiful, finally beginning. Catherine's heat lasted 3 days. 3 days of being worshipped by two Alpha Kings who treated her body like a temple and her pleasure like a sacred duty. By the third day, Catherine had lost count of how many times she'd peaked. Her voice was hoarse from crying out their names. Her skin bore marks from their mouths, though never the permanent claiming bite. They fed her, bathed her, held her when the waves of heat became too much. Through it all, the bond between them grew stronger. Catherine could feel their emotions now. Adrian's fierce protectiveness, Damien's barely contained devotion, and underneath both a love so complete it terrified her. On the fourth morning, the heat broke. Catherine woke to winter sunlight and the warm weight of two bodies flanking her, Adrian on her left, Damien on her right. She studied them in sleep. These were the faces of men who'd lived 3 centuries, seen empires rise and fall, and they'd chosen her. Adrian's eyes opened, gold meeting ice blue. "Good morning." "Is it over?" Catherine's voice rasped. "The heat, yes. How do you feel?" "Sore, exhausted, happy." His smile could have lit the city. "Good." Damien stirred, grumbling about mornings being cruel inventions. Catherine laughed. "Shower," she announced. "Then food. Then we need to talk." "Practical," Catherine corrected when Damien muttered something ominous. "We've spent 3 days in bed. The real world still exists." Adrian sat up. "What do you need to understand what comes next? I can't live in this apartment with both of you." "May I make a suggestion?" Adrian asked. "Please, move into the estate. Not as a kept woman," he added quickly. "As our partner. We have a west wing that's completely separate. Your own space. Your own entrance." Catherine considered. "I'll think about it, but I keep paying rent here for now. Backup plan." "Fair." Adrian kissed her forehead. "Shower. Then I'm making breakfast." The Thorne estate sat on 10 acres of prime Portland real estate, Victorian architecture mixed with modern security. "How many wolves are in your pack?" Catherine asked as they drove through the gates. 237, Adrian said. The main house was beautiful. Hardwood floors, vaulted ceilings, art that was probably worth more than she'd earn in a lifetime. But it was the people that caught her attention. Wolves of all ages moved through the space with easy familiarity. Everyone Catherine passed stopped and stared. Not with hostility, with curiosity, with assessment. "They can smell us on you," Damien murmured. "Know you're bonded to both of us." An older woman approached, silver-haired and elegant. "I'm Margaret Thorne, Adrian and Damien's aunt. Also pack a second." Catherine shook her offered hand. "Catherine Whitmore." "The true Omega." Margaret's smile was knowing. "We've been waiting for you." "You knew about me. These boys have been looking for 300 years. When they came home from the tavern smelling like fate and panic, I knew they'd finally found you." Adrian cleared his throat. "Aunt Margaret tends toward dramatics. I tend toward truth." Margaret linked her arm through Catherine's. "Come, let me show you around while these two handle pack business." The pack gathering that night was overwhelming. 237 wolves filled the great hall. Catherine stood beside Adrian and Damien on a raised platform, feeling every eye on her. Adrian's hands settled on her lower back. Warm, steady. He addressed his pack with the voice of a king. "Most of you have heard rumors by now. I'm here to confirm them. Catherine Whitmore is our true Omega, our fated mate. In time, she will be your Luna." Silence. Then a young warrior in the front row dropped to one knee. "Luna," another followed, then another. Within moments, every wolf in the hall had knelt. Catherine's breath caught. This was submission, respect, acceptance. "Rise," Damien commanded. "She hasn't accepted the permanent bond yet. She's still deciding if we're worth the trouble." Laughter rippled through the crowd. An older beta stepped forward. "Permission to speak, Alpha." "Granted, Thomas." "What does our Luna need to feel certain? How can the pack help?" Catherine found her voice. "I need to know what I'm joining. What it means to be Luna to this pack. I've never had a family. Never belonged anywhere." Thomas's weathered face softened. "We expect you to be yourself, to support our alphas when they need it. Beyond that, you define the role, Luna, not the other way around. And if I fail, if I'm not strong enough, then we'll help you get stronger." A female warrior spoke up. "That's what pack means. We rise together." Something in Catherine's chest cracked open. These wolves were offering her what she'd never had: community, support, belonging. "I'd like to train," she heard herself say. "Learn to fight properly. I can shift now, but I'm clumsy." "You survived rogues your first shift," Thomas said. "That's not weakness, Luna. That's courage born from desperation. We can refine it, make you dangerous." Adrian's pride burned through the bond. "Training starts tomorrow. Thomas, you'll oversee her instruction." "It would be my honor." Catherine threw herself into training with intensity. Dawn runs through the forest with the pack warriors, combat practice that left her bruised and gasping, shifting drills until she could manage the transformation in under a minute. Thomas was a patient but demanding instructor. Again, he'd say when she fumbled, your wolf form is larger than most omegas. Use that weight. She practiced. Failed. Tried again. The pack warriors treated her with respect that felt earned. When she landed a successful strike on a beta twice her size, they cheered. When she managed to pin Thomas in wolf form, they howled approval. Catherine was becoming dangerous. More importantly, she was becoming confident. 2 weeks into training, Adrian pulled her aside. You're impressive out there. I'm adequate. You're deadly. Thomas says you've surpassed most of our newer warriors already. Catherine wiped sweat from her face. I had good motivation, which is never being helpless again, never letting someone reject me because I'm weak. Adrian's expression went dark. Derek. She told them about the rejection during one of their long evenings together. Told them everything. He was wrong about you, Adrian said quietly. So profoundly wrong. I know that now, but part of me still hears his voice sometimes, calling me defective. What would help silence it? Catherine thought about that. Proving him wrong, completely, publicly. He will see what he lost. I promise you that. The message arrived 3 weeks after Catherine moved into the estate's west wing. She'd claimed the space as her own, decorated with thrift store finds and plants, created a sanctuary that was just hers. She was reading when Damien knocked. Come in. He entered holding a phone. His expression was carefully neutral, but she could feel the rage simmering underneath. What's wrong? Message for you from Derek Blackwood. Catherine's blood went cold. She read the text. Heard you found new alphas. Thorn Pack. Impressive. Do they know what you are? That you're broken cursed when they figure it out, they'll reject you too. Just like I did. You can't escape what you are, Catherine. Defective. Unworthy. Mine. The last word made her skin crawl. He thinks he still has a claim, she said quietly. He has nothing. Damien's voice was lethal. His rejection was public and binding. But he's trying. Yes. And he'll fail. Adrian appeared in the doorway. He'd felt her distress through the bond. What happened? Damien showed him the message. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Adrian's alpha power rolled out in waves. Block his number, Adrian said, and increase security. Catherine stood, walked to Adrian, cupped his face in her hands. I'm not afraid of him. You should be. Rejected alphas can be dangerous. He didn't lose me. He threw me away. Catherine's voice hardened. And I'm not that broken omega anymore. I'm a Luna in training. I have a pack. I have mates who actually want me. Derek Blackwood can choke on his regret. Pride blazed through both bonds. Adrian kissed her hard. That's my girl. Ours, Damien corrected. Ours, Catherine agreed. She meant it, wholly, completely. These men had earned her trust through patience and respect and devotion. Now she was ready to choose them, permanently. That night, Catherine initiated what would change everything. She'd asked them to meet her in the master bedroom. Not her wing, their space. They arrived within minutes, both radiating confusion and concern through the bond. Is everything all right? Adrian asked. Catherine stood by the massive bed. She dressed carefully. Simple dress that made her feel beautiful. I've decided, she said. Both twins went very still. I want the permanent bond, the claiming marks, all of it. She met their eyes steadily. I want both of you, together. Tonight. Catherine, Damien's voice was strained. You don't have to rush because of Derek's message. I'm not rushing because of fear. I'm choosing because of certainty. She stepped forward. I love you, both of you. I've been fighting it because love hasn't worked out well before. But this is different. You're different. We love you too, Adrian said roughly. So much it terrifies us. Then show me, both of you. At the same time, make me completely yours. The air in the room changed, charged with alpha power and omega need and fate. Damien moved first, crossed the room in 3 strides, cupped her face. Are you absolutely certain? Yes. The claiming bite is permanent, visible. Everyone will know you're bonded to both of us. Good, I want them to know. Adrian joined them, created a triangle with Catherine at the center. We've never done this. Both of us with 1 omega. We'll go slow. Check in constantly. I trust you. Those 3 words unleashed something in them. Catherine felt their control snap. They undressed her together, 4 hands working in tandem, Adrian at her front, Damien at her back, removing clothing with reverence and urgency. When she stood naked between them, they paused, just looked. Beautiful, Damien breathed. Adrian kissed her, deep, claiming. His tongue swept into her mouth while Damien's lips found her throat, not biting yet, just tasting. They walked her backward to the bed, laid her down on silk sheets, stood at the foot and undressed themselves. Catherine watched, memorized the play of muscle under skin, the perfect synchronization. Then they joined her on the bed, one on each side. Adrian's hand cupped her breast. Damien slid between her thighs. Catherine arched into both touches. "We're going to make you finish first," Adrian murmured against her ear. "Get you ready, then we'll both take you." Then the claiming bites during the peak. Understood. Yes. They worked her in tandem, Adrian's mouth on her breasts while Damien's fingers circled her most sensitive spot, building pleasure in layers. When Adrian's fingers joined Damien's between her thighs, Catherine cried out. Two sets of hands learning her body, working together with the coordination of 3 centuries bonded. "Let go," they commanded together. She shattered. The sensation ripped through her like lightning. Her body clenched around Damien's fingers. Wave after wave crashed through her. Before she'd finished, they were moving, positioning her, Arian on his back, Catherine straddling him, Damien behind her. "Both of us," Adrian said. "Are you ready?" Catherine looked down at him, at the love and hunger in his golden eyes, looked over her shoulder at Damien, at the matching expression. "I'm ready." Adrian guided himself to her entrance. Catherine sank down slowly, took him inch by inch. The stretch was intense, perfect. But then Damien's hands settled on her hips from behind, and she realized what they intended. "Both," he confirmed. "We'll go slow. Stop if it's too much." Catherine had never done this, but she trusted them, trusted the bond. "Yes," she breathed. Damien pressed forward carefully. Catherine felt the pressure, felt her body stretching beyond what she'd thought possible. The burn was intense, almost painful, but then something gave. Some barrier of tension released, and Damien slid home. Catherine couldn't breathe, couldn't think, could only feel the impossible fullness, the completeness of having both her mates inside her at once. "Okay, fine, one way." Adrian's voice was strained. "More than okay, perfect. Move, please move." They established a rhythm. When Adrian withdrew, Damien pressed deeper. When Damien pulled back, Adrian thrust forward. A perfect alternating pattern that kept Catherine constantly filled. The pleasure built fast, higher than she'd ever felt. The bond between all 3 of them blazed. She could feel their pleasure feeding into hers, could feel the love and devotion and possessive need. It was overwhelming, transcendent. "Going to finish," she gasped. "Together," they growled. "All 3 of us." The pressure peaked. Catherine's vision went white. She felt her body clench around both of them, felt them follow her over the edge. And as the sensation crashed through all 3 of them, they bit. Adrian's fangs sank into the left side of her throat, Damien's into the right. Perfect symmetry, permanent claiming marks that would identify her as theirs for the rest of her life. The pain was sharp and bright and perfect. The bond completed with an almost audible snap. Catherine felt their minds slam into hers, felt every emotion, every thought, every sensation. Felt Adrian's fierce protectiveness and Damien's burning devotion, and underneath both, a love so complete it redefined what love meant. She bit back, first Adrian's throat, then Damien's, marked them as thoroughly as they'd marked her. 3 souls, permanently bonded, unbreakable. The marks on their throats began to glow. Faint silver light, the sign of a true Omega's bond. When they finally separated, Catherine collapsed between them, boneless, wrung out, completely satisfied. "Mine," Adrian murmured, fingers tracing the mark he'd left. "Ours," Damien corrected. "Ours." Catherine agreed. Through the bond, she felt their joy, their completion, the certainty that they'd finally, after 300 years, found home. She closed her eyes and let their love wash over her. This was what belonging felt like. This was family. 2 days later, everything changed again. Catherine was helping in the pack medical wing. One of the warriors had been injured during training, deep gash across his ribs from shifted claws. Pack doctor was stitching him up when Catherine felt a pull. An instinct, a need to touch. She placed her hand over the wound. Silver light exploded from her palm. The warrior gasped. The doctor stumbled back. Catherine watched in shock as the gash closed, skin knitting together seamlessly. No scar, no trace it had ever existed. "What?" The doctor's voice shook. "What did you just do?" Catherine stared at her hand. The silver light faded. "I don't know," but Adrian, summoned by her shock through the bond, did. He stood in the doorway, eyes wide. "Moon-blessed. Catherine, you're moon-blessed." The pack doctor's face went pale. That's impossible. They've been extinct for 200 years. Clearly not extinct. Damien appeared beside his brother, just hidden, dormant. Catherine looked between them. Someone explain. What's Moonblessed? Adrian guided her to a chair. Ancient bloodline, descended from the first Omega created by the moon goddess herself. They had healing abilities, could cure injuries, illness, even some poisons. But the bloodline was hunted, wiped out by alphas who wanted to control that power. Or so we thought, Damien added. But if you have the ability, you carry the bloodline. My albinism, Catherine whispered. Derek called it a curse. It's not a curse, it's a mark. The pack doctor had recovered his composure. Moon-blessed Omegas always had unusual coloring. White hair, pale eyes, signs of the goddess's favor. Everything clicked into place. The rejection, the isolation, the whispers about her being cursed. All because she carried a bloodline so rare, so valuable, that people had forgotten it existed. Derek didn't know, she said. No one knew, Adrian confirmed. If they had, you would never have been treated so poorly. Moon-blessed Omegas are treasured, protected, hidden. Damien's voice went dark. If other packs learn what you are, they'll come for you, try to steal you, use your abilities for their own gain. Catherine felt the truth of his words, felt the danger settling around her like a cloak. Then we don't tell anyone, she said. Keep it within the pack. Use it to help our wolves, but don't advertise. Agreed. Adrian's tactical mind was already working. The fewer who know, the safer you are. But they all knew. Secrets like this didn't stay buried forever. Somewhere word would spread, and when it did, the real danger would begin. The message arrived 1 week later. Official, legal, delivered through pack channels with the seal of the Eastern Shifter Council. Derek Blackwood was demanding a formal hearing, claiming Catherine's rejection had been invalid, requesting the council review his claim to her as his fated mate. Catherine read the summons 3 times. Each word felt like a blade. He can't do this, she said. The rejection was public, witnessed, binding. He can request a hearing. Adrian's voice was ice. Doesn't mean the council will rule in his favor. But they might. Damien's jaw was tight. If he argues temporary insanity or coercion, if he claims new information has come to light. What new information? That you're a true Omega, moon-blessed, valuable enough to fight for. Catherine's blood ran cold. He knows. Someone told him, word leaked. She stood, paced the room, tried to think through the panic. When is the hearing? 2 weeks. Boston, before the full council of alphas. And if they rule in his favor, silence. Then Adrian spoke and his voice held the weight of 300 years of authority. They won't, because we're going to prove that Derek Blackwood's rejection was cruel, calculated, and permanent. That his current claim is motivated by greed, not love. And that you, Catherine Whitmore, are exactly where you choose to be. How? By showing them the mate marks, the completed bond, your integration into our pack, your training, your strength. Damien's smile was sharp. By showing them that you're not the broken Omega Derek rejected. You're a Luna, a healer, a warrior, and you chose us. Catherine felt their confidence through the bond, felt their certainty that they would win. But underneath, she felt something else. The cold knowledge that this fight was far from over. Derek was coming, and this time she would face him not as a victim, but as a queen. The thought should have terrified her. Instead, it filled her with savage satisfaction. Let him come. Let him see what he'd thrown away. Let him watch her stand beside 2 Alpha Kings and know that he'd lost. Not just her, but his chance at a true Omega, a moon-blessed healer, a mate who could have made him legendary. Catherine touched the silver marks on her throat, felt her mate's love burning through the bond. She smiled. Derek Blackwood wanted a fight. He was about to get one. The drive to Boston took 4 hours through winter-stripped forests and highways that gleamed with black ice. Catherine sat between Adrian and Damien in the back of the SUV, their pack attorney driving, trying to calm the nervous flutter in her chest. Through the bond, she felt their steady confidence, their certainty, their absolute conviction that Derek would fail. She wished she felt the same. Tell me again what happens, she said quietly. Adrian's hand found hers. The council convenes 12 territorial alphas from across the eastern region. They'll hear Derek's petition first, his arguments for why the rejection should be reversed. Then they'll hear our counter-arguments, Damien continued. The contract, the completed bond, your choice. And if they side with him, they won't. Adrian's voice held steel. Because you're going to tell them exactly what happened, the truth, and the truth will destroy him. Catherine hoped he was right. The Eastern Shifter Council met in a building that looked like a historic courthouse from the outside. Inside, it was pure shifter dominance. Stone walls, high ceilings, the scent of alpha power so thick it made her wolf whimper. They were escorted to a waiting room. Catherine wore a simple dress, navy blue high-necked. The claiming marks on her throat were visible, glowing faint silver, impossible to miss. 10 minutes, the escort said. When they were alone, Damien pulled her into his arms. You've got this. What if I freeze? What if I can't speak? You survive rejection and exile and rogues and building an entire new life from nothing. Adrian's hands settled on her shoulders. You can survive 12 old alphas asking questions. The door opened. They're ready. The council chamber was exactly as she'd seen it in her nightmares for the past 2 weeks. 12 territorial leaders sat in judgment, ancient alphas whose combined age probably exceeded 3,000 years. Derek stood on the opposite side of the chamber. He wore a suit, looked confident, powerful. Their eyes met across the room. Catherine saw the moment he registered the marks on her throat, saw his face go pale, saw rage flash across his features before he controlled it. Too late, she thought with savage satisfaction. I'm already claimed. This hearing is called to order. The head councilman was the same silver-haired alpha, ancient, scarred. His voice carried absolute authority. Derek Blackwood has petitioned this council to review the rejection of his fated mate bond with Catherine Whitmore. The petition claims the rejection was performed under duress and temporary impairment of judgment. Derek Blackwood, present your case. Derek's attorney stepped forward, a weasel of a beta clutching papers. Honored counsel, my client readily admits he made a grave error 6 months ago. At the time of the rejection, he was under significant pressure from his father, Alpha Marcus Blackwood, to secure a political alliance through mating. This pressure created a temporary state of mental impairment. Derek was not acting of his own free will, but under alpha compulsion from his father. Catherine's hands clenched. Lies. All lies. Furthermore, the attorney continued, new information has come to light regarding Miss Whitmore's true nature. She is not a standard Omega, but a true Omega of the moon-blessed bloodline. Had my client known this at the time, he would never have performed the rejection. The rejection was based on incomplete information and therefore should be considered invalid. The council murmured. Additionally, Derek Blackwood's bond with Miss Whitmore formed first. The Thorn twins' interference in an existing, albeit damaged mate bond constitutes poaching. We ask the council to void their claim and restore the original bond. Derek spoke then, and his voice carried across the chamber with practiced sincerity. I was young, foolish. I let ambition blind me to what the goddess had given me. I've spent 6 months regretting that decision. When I learned Catherine was alive, that she'd survived, that she was moon-blessed, I knew I had to fight for a second chance. I love her. I've always loved her. I'm asking this council to give us the opportunity to do this right. He sounded so genuine, so remorseful. If Catherine hadn't lived through the reality, she might have believed him. The head councilman turned to her. Catherine Whitmore, do you consent to bond restoration with Derek Blackwood? This was the moment from the cold open, the one that had haunted her for 2 weeks. Catherine stepped forward away from Adrian and Damien's protective presence, stood alone in the center of the chamber. Every wolf present saw the marks on her throat, 2 sets of claiming bites, fresh, permanent, glowing silver. Her voice when she spoke did not shake. 6 months ago, Derek Blackwood stood before his entire pack and called me cursed. She let the words hang in the air. Let the council absorb them. He said my bloodline was defective, contaminated, that I was unworthy of standing beside an alpha. He rejected our mate bond not in private, but publicly in front of 150 witnesses who laughed as I collapsed from the pain. Derek's attorney started to speak. The head councilman silenced him with a gesture. Catherine continued, Derek claims he was under his father's compulsion. I was there. I heard no alpha command. I saw a man making a calculated choice. He wanted a political alliance more than he wanted his fated mate. That's not temporary insanity. That's greed. He claims he didn't know I was moon-blessed. Neither did I, neither did anyone. But even if he had known, it wouldn't have mattered. Derek didn't want me when I was valuable. He certainly didn't want me when I was nothing. She turned to face Derek directly. You had your chance. You rejected it, rejected me, called me cursed in front of your entire pack. exiled me to die alone. I survived not because of you, but despite you. I found mates who chose me when I had nothing to offer, who respected me, protected me, asked for my consent instead of demanding my submission, who gave me a contract instead of commands, who made me Luna not because of what I could do for them, but because of who I am. Catherine's hand moved to the marks on her throat. These marks are permanent, consensual. I chose Adrian and Damien Thorne. I choose them now. I will choose them every day for the rest of my life. She turned back to the council. So no, honored council, I do not consent to bond restoration with Derek Blackwood. I reject his petition. I reject his claim. I reject him. The chamber went silent. Then Derek moved. Fast. Shifting mid-stride. His wolf form erupted massive and brown, lunging for Catherine with fangs bared. He was trying to force a claim, trying to mark her before anyone could stop him. He didn't make it 3 feet. Adrian and Damien intercepted in perfect synchronization. Two wolves, one silver-black, one darker, moving as a single unit. They hit Derek from both sides, driving him to the ground. The fight was brutal and short. Derek was powerful, but the Thorne twins were bonded. 300 years of fighting as one unit. Every move coordinated through their mental link. When Derek lunged left, they were already there. When he tried to break right, they anticipated. In under a minute, Derek lay pinned beneath them, throat exposed, submission, or death. Enough! The head councilman's voice cracked like thunder. The twins backed off but didn't shift, kept themselves between Derek and Catherine. Protective, dominant, unmistakably hers. The head councilman stood. Derek Blackwood, you have attempted to force a claim on a bonded Omega before this council. This is a capital offense. Your petition is denied. Furthermore, you are hereby banished from all Eastern territories. You have 72 hours to leave. If you return, the sentence is death. This council has spoken. The other 11 alphas nodded in unison. Derek shifted back to human form, naked, bleeding, his face twisted with rage and humiliation. She was mine, he snarled. Mine first. You can't, we can, and have. The councilman's eyes were cold. You rejected her. Publicly. Witnesses confirmed. The bond was broken by your choice. You have no claim, no rights, and now no territory. Get out of my sight. 2 council guards dragged Derek from the chamber. Catherine watched him go, watched the man who'd broken her being removed like trash, felt nothing but cold satisfaction. The head councilman turned to her. Catherine Whitmore, this council recognizes your bond with Adrian and Damien Thorne. You are officially acknowledged as dual Luna of the Thorne Pack. Moon-blessed, true Omega, under the protection of this council and all Eastern territories. He smiled then, just slightly, and congratulations on your upcoming motherhood. True Omega twins are rare gifts. Treasure them. Catherine's hand moved to her belly, still flat, but she felt it. The tiny flutter of life. 2 heartbeats that weren't hers. She'd known for 3 days. Had been waiting to tell her mates until after the hearing. But apparently a council of ancient alphas could scent pregnancy before she showed. Adrian and Damien shifted back. Damien wrapped his jacket around himself. Adrian just stood there unconcerned with nudity, staring at Catherine with wonder blazing through the bond. Twins, he breathed. I was going to tell you tonight, she said. Surprise. He laughed, actually laughed, then scooped her up and spun her around despite the watching council. Ours, Damien said, joining them. A family. Our family, Catherine agreed. The pack celebration that night was chaos in the best way. 237 wolves filled the great hall, howling, cheering, celebrating their Luna's victory and the announcement of heirs. Catherine stood on the platform beside her mates, overwhelmed by the sheer joy radiating from her pack, her family. Thomas approached with a velvet box, traditional Luna gift from the pack. Inside was a silver circlet, simple, elegant, engraved with wolves running beneath a full moon. Adrian placed it on her head with hands that trembled slightly. Our queen. The pack roared approval. Later, much later, when the celebration wound down and they retreated to their private chambers, Adrian and Damien claimed her again. Gently this time, reverently, their hands on her belly, their minds wrapped around hers through the bond. Thank you, Adrian whispered, for choosing us, for giving us this. Thank you for making it easy to choose, Catherine replied. 6 months later, Catherine stood on the balcony overlooking the packlands, one hand resting on the swell of her belly. 4 months along. The twins were active today. She could feel them moving, could sense their tiny developing bonds to their fathers. Her white hair caught the afternoon light. Once she'd hidden it, been ashamed of the coloring that marked her as different. Now she wore it down, proud, a symbol of the moon-blessed bloodline that ran through her veins. The West Wing had been converted to a nursery. Pack members donated furniture, hand-carved cribs, soft blankets in silver and blue. The walls painted with a forest scene that Margaret Thorne had commissioned from a local artist. The pack was thriving. Catherine's healing abilities had saved 3 lives in the past months. The rescued Omega program she'd started was sheltering 7 wolves who'd escaped abusive situations. Training had expanded, territory secured, and Derek Blackwood. Last she'd heard, he'd fled to the West Coast. Vanessa had broken their engagement when the council banished him. His father had disowned him. He was alone, powerless, exactly as he'd left her. The difference was Catherine had survived and built something beautiful from the ashes. Derek had only ashes. Adrian and Damien joined her on the balcony, flanking her as always, their hands settling on her belly, feeling their children move. "Any regrets?" Damien asked. Catherine thought about the girl she'd been 6 months ago, broken, rejected, certain she was worthless. She thought about the woman she'd become, Luna, healer, warrior, mate, soon-to-be mother. "Not one," she said honestly. "We love you," they said in unison. "I love you too, both of you, always." The sun set over Portland, over their territory, their pack, their home. Inside, Catherine, the twins kicked, impatient, ready to join the world that waited for them. A world where they would be treasured, protected, loved, where they would know from their first breath that they were chosen. Catherine had been rejected by one alpha who couldn't see her worth, but she'd been claimed by 2 kings who saw everything she was and everything she could be. And in the claiming, she'd found herself, found family, found home. The moon goddess didn't make mistakes. Derek had taught her that in the worst possible way, but Adrian and Damien had proven it in the best. Catherine Thorne, dual Luna of the Thorn Pack. Moon-blessed healer. True Omega closed her eyes and felt the bond humming between the 3 of them. Complete, unbreakable, forever. This was what belonging felt like. This was love, and it was only the beginning.